Fantasy anime is back. For a while now, there's been an ever-growing sentiment that fantasy anime was all but dead. And while I don't think this is 100% true, there's been fairly popular and well-liked fantasy anime like Black Clover and Fairy Tail since at least the 2010s, I also don't think this statement is 100% false either. If anything, these anime were exceptions more so than the actual rule, especially since the pop culture explosion that was Sword Art Online. After this anime came out, being a fantasy anime typically meant one thing, being an isekai. Again, I still think it's weird that this is considered an isekai, but we're just gonna roll with it. Isekai will always have its fans, but from what I've seen online, there's a very sizable chunk of the anime viewing community that feel as though the genre has become stale, overdone, and kind of cookie cutter. And I can't really say that I disagree all that much. It just feels like fantasy anime's been in kind of a rut lately. That is until recently, where we're now experiencing a fantasy anime renaissance of sorts. Shows like Mashal, Dungeon Meshi, and of course Frieren show us that fantasy is a vast well of potential when done right. I'm an individual that typically holds on very hard to my nostalgia, so never would I believe that a potential top 5 favorite anime could ever be created this late into my life. But lo and behold, Frieren blew all of my expectations out of the water. After all these new great shows, I have a newfound appreciation for fantasy anime, and I was eagerly awaiting more anime like these to dive into. So naturally, this brought me to the topic of today's video, Wistoria, Wand and Sword. I've never actually heard of this series before, but I've always noticed that at least someone was usually talking about it in most anime circles. Every time I checked to see what new anime were trending, I would always see Wistoria pop up. I mean, I've even had people talking about this anime in the comment section of some of my videos. And the way that I saw people praising it anytime I looked into it made me really excited to check it out. And so I was ready to have my mind blown. I couldn't wait to watch Wistoria. This was going to be the greatest anime ever. I didn't like it. All right, you guys saw the title of the video. You knew what this was gonna be. And look, it's not like I enjoy tearing anime to shreds. Obviously, no matter how bad an anime is, it's still a piece of art that was made by actual people with hopes and dreams, It's easy for us as viewers to look at something we don't like, call it trash, and just dismiss it. But the fact of the matter is that people still spend hours upon hours of painstaking hard work creating the things that we so readily dismiss. So I feel like it's at the very least my obligation to talk about what I took away from this anime and the things that I feel drag it down. And oh man, is there a lot of dragging down. But let's start with the positive, shall we? And first things first, oh my god, that budget. I'm actually kind of shocked by how big the budget for this anime seems, considering that it feels like a series that just kind of came out of nowhere. Scenes in this anime look super cinematic, like it's a full-on movie or something. And that's not even talking about the quality of the animation on display here. The fights in this anime are brought to life with such a level of grandiosity that it honestly kind of rivals most of the anime I've seen this year. This show was animated by Studio Actus. I don't know how to pronounce that. As well as Bandai Namco Pictures. And that makes a lot of sense. I had never heard of the former studio before, but I do know about Bandai Namco, and it's very reasonable to assume that a company as big as them would be able to pump all the money they need into making sure that this anime catches everyone's eye. And one of the best ways that this anime does so is with some really killer character designs. When I was looking at promotional material for this anime, the first thing that stuck out to me was the characters themselves. Something that I appreciate greatly about this show is that despite all the characters wearing the same school uniform, they're still all able to look unique in their own way. In particular, I'm actually very fond of the main protagonist Will's design. It's just very striking. The lanky build mixed with the darker hair and goggles make for a pretty memorable look and definitely helps add to this anime's charm. The characters themselves look great. However, this is where any kind of praise I can give this show ends. Because unfortunately, from here, everything begins to fall apart. For a little bit of context, Wistoria's narrative is set in a world where magic reigns supreme. It's considered a necessity in life, and often a person's proficiency in magic determines their standing in the social hierarchy. This is where our main protagonist, Will, comes in. Will is a student at the Regarden Magical Academy, where, you guessed it, students go to learn magic and hopefully ascend to the highest rank a mage can possess, the Magia Vander. Basically, the guardians of this world who help maintain the sky barrier that is keeping countless evil forces from invading. Will's one dream in life is to achieve this status and proudly stand next to his childhood friend who has already achieved this feat. However, there's one issue with this. Will is unable to use magic in any capacity. And it's for this reason that Will is basically treated like dirt by his fellow students. Now, already, this story is a lot like some other anime I can name. And I'm not really one to harp on a story being derivative because, I mean, most media we consume is derivative in some way. However, I think that this becomes an issue when you're unable to take an already existing idea and make it your own. And unfortunately, at least to me, this is one of the anime's biggest blunders. Wistoria sets itself up as a purely character-driven narrative. However, the major issue here is that all of the characters in this anime are just so bland and underdeveloped. It's really hard to care about any of them because most of their personalities and motivations are about as deep as a puddle. Now, granted, a character doesn't need to have a super deep personality or motivation so long as they're at least entertaining. But that's the thing. None of these characters are particularly fun to watch. Most of them feel less like characters and more so just cardboard cutouts with very basic shonen character types glued to them. Now, I don't think that there's anything wrong with sticking to popular character archetypes. Obviously, they work for a reason, but it just feels like the bare minimum has been done here for all of them. They're just here to occupy these character types and not be much of anything else. And oh boy, if the utter lack of character development and nuance was an issue, that's not even getting into how much worse it is when you take this guy into account. I know earlier I was praising Will's character design and stuff, but that really is where any praise I can give him ends. This character alone drags this anime to the darkest depths for which it really cannot recover. Like I said, Will can't use magic at all. And of course, he gets bullied relentlessly, made fun of. He's basically a loser. And the anime reminds you of this constantly. It wants you to feel bad for him, like he's this underdog who's fighting against all odds. And yeah, obviously a character like this can work. We've seen it done in the past. The issue is that Will is absurdly strong and basically always wins. Yes, Will can't use magic, but that really doesn't matter. He has a freakish amount of strength and can win any fight through sheer force. I don't really have an issue in concept with Will having this strength. However, I feel like the entire point of a character like this is to see them develop their strength over time. That way you can see their growth and feel a narrative satisfaction when they do eventually become one of the strongest characters. A character like Deku, for example, while yes, he is super strong, he still has to learn how to use this strength. The character still has to be put through a struggle. But that's really not the case for Will. From episode 1, he already has this gargantuan strength, so we really don't get any sense of growth from him. Constantly, Will's all like, gee, shucks, I'm such a loser. How am I supposed almost amount to anything. I'll never be the cool guy. Yet he single-handedly kills giant monsters that make other skilled mages soil themselves, has 3 different, very conventionally attractive characters in love with him, and basically makes every other character in the show look incompetent. The reason the other characters feel so much like cardboard cutouts is because they're just there to make Will look cooler. I never really feel like there's any stakes when Will is in a battle. I'm not on the edge of my seat wondering how he's going to clutch a win because he constantly dominates any situation he's in. I know that this isn't an isekai, but Will honestly feels like he walked right out of one. For example, there's a scene in episode 7 where Will gets completely buried under a wall of ice magic, and for a second I'm like, oh man, it looks like Will might actually be in a really tight spot right now. I really don't know how he's gonna get out of this. It doesn't seem like he can just use his raw strength to win. Is he gonna use some kind of big brain strategy to turn things around? Nope! He literally a second later busts through the ice unscathed with just his sheer strength, then proceeds to single-handedly win the fight. It's just so unsatisfying. And what only makes things worse is that the anime treats it like all these victories were because Will is so smart and he was able to strategize his victory. But it really does just come down to Will is fast and hits his enemy really hard. And that's it. And honestly, it's just really, really disappointing. Will kind of completely breaks this show, and unfortunately has basically killed any kind of excitement I had in watching it, which is honestly kind of a shame. I'm not someone that wants to dislike something when I watch it. I usually try my best to stay positive and focus my passion towards the elements of a show that work. I'm willing to overlook a lot of an anime's flaws if there's something there that makes the experience worth it. And again, I just need to clarify, all of this is just my opinion. It's not like my word is gospel or anything. There's plenty of people watching this anime that are really enjoying it. And honestly, more power to them. I would prefer if I could just like this show and be happy like everyone else. But I have to stay true to myself. And to me, at least, Wistoria just kind of felt like it was style over substance. Yeah, the animation and production quality is honestly really great, but that's about where the positives end for me. I tried to stick with it, but really, I didn't feel a lot while I was watching this show. To me, Wistoria just kind of felt empty. But I want to know what you guys think. Did you enjoy Wistoria, or are you in the same boat as me? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for watching and hearing my opinion out. If you liked what you saw, please like the video and subscribe. It really helps the channel a ton. And hey, if you're in the mood for more content, we did a video all about anime remakes. It should be popping up right now if you want to go give it a watch. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll always be super grateful for all of you. And until next time, take care, guys.